So I am currently in an airport hotel in Denver, Colorado, about to embark on a 12-day road trip across the USA. And this is the new Pentax 17. Pentax are marketing this camera as an easy way to enjoy film photography. It's not designed for serious work, but rather fun images that you would post to social media such as Instagram. So I'm going to be using this camera to capture the behind the scenes of a mega storm chasing road trip, which I am currently undertaking. So the Pentax 17, it's a 35mm film camera that shoots half frame, so you get twice as many shots on a roll of film, but of course the frame size is half the size of a normal 35mm frame, hence the name Pentax 17, which refers to the frame size just here. It has a fixed prime lens, which is 35mm equivalent of a 37mm lens. You see any storms from up there? Fingers crossed, today is a chase day. This is what we've been waiting for. Look at that sky, guys. I think we're on today. I genuinely, Thor? Yep. Do you think we're on today?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah, excited?
Looking forward to it, yep.
You want a sleeve or stopper for your flat white?
No.
Oh, that was yours.
I've got hands of asbestos.
Whoa, look at that! So this US road trip that we are photographing with this camera, the behind the scenes of, it's a storm chasing trip. And here is an example of some of the damage that these storms can do. It's just crazy. An entire warehouse completely destroyed by a tornado that came through here. Hey everyone,
hey.
This is Mike.
Hello world.
So we're waiting for storms to organize themselves, right?
Yeah, so we got storms that are forming on the Kansas border right now, which is, it's way down there.
Yeah.
And we're gonna let them kind of organize before we choose which one. Last thing you wanna do is kind of jump to the first one. And so patience is the name of the game.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll have storms soon.
Fantastic. You heard that, guys? Tornadoes. Tornadoes have been promised. So I've been using this camera for about 10 days now, every day for 10 days or so, and there's one problem that keeps reoccurring every single day, and I haven't figured out a way to get around it. And that is that when you take a photograph, like so, and then you manually wind on the film, like this, occasionally when you wind on the film, you will wind the film, but you will, at the same time, you will hit the dial which sets the shooting mode of the camera. And it's really easy to advance the film, and as you advance the film, change the settings. And you don't always notice this, especially if you're shooting quickly in a rush. Take a shot, wind the film, take another shot, wind the film. Before you know it, you know, you're shooting on night mode or bokeh mode or whatever. So if this dial here had a lock on it, then that would, ergonomically, that would make the camera much, much better. Other than that, it's great, easy to use, and a lot of fun.
They put us under a tornado watch today, as opposed to a severe thunderstorm watch, which you guys had the other day. So conditions are pretty favorable for tornadoes.
I'm ready for a tornado because I have my energy drink. So I loaded Portra 160 into this camera, and I was a bit nervous about that because of that slower shutter speed that you're going to get. So I have no idea if these images are going to come out, because actually a lot of the scenarios in which I've been shooting have been during storms where the light is actually quite low. Now the reason I went for Portra 160 because it's a fine grain film, and with this being a half frame camera, if I use something like Kodak Max 400, then you're just not going to get any detail. At least I feel as if I'm not going to get much detail out of those half frames. So with Portra 160 having a very, very, very fine grain, should be able to get a sharper image. That's my thinking behind loading film into this. So yeah, we'll see. And that's a wrap. One roll of Portra 160 done. So as we have finished a roll and I've been using this camera for the past 2 weeks and my road trip is coming to a close here in the USA, I thought I'd give you some of my final thoughts regarding this Pentax 1.7. Now firstly, hats off to Pentax for manufacturing this camera. A rising tide lifts all boats, and it's fantastic to see companies releasing new film products. My first impressions when I got this camera and took it out of the box, bear in mind Pentax sends me, I haven't purchased this. My first impressions were that it was a bit plasticky and it felt a bit like a toy, and that's because it's lightweight and the materials used I don't think are the best. Are we moving? Oh, right, well, we're gonna move, the storm's coming in. I think what we'll do is we will pick this back up in the office where perhaps, whoa, we can look at a few frames. Right, why isn't this shutting? Come on. We'll pick this back up in the office where we can look at a few frames and round things off. Oh, gosh.
Welcome back to my office, everybody. We are home from the US of A, and I will continue with my summary of the Pentax 1.7 half-frame film camera. Now, I left the US of A saying that this felt a bit cheap and like a toy, and I stand by that. It feels very plasticky. It's super, super lightweight, although I suppose that may not be a bad thing. The grip/battery cover. I don't know, I don't like this. There's a big screw on the side of the camera that feels like an afterthought. It's very, very plasticky and it doesn't feel very nice. And it kind of adds to that toy-like feeling, as does the distance measurement symbols, the focusing symbols on the top of the lens. Again, makes it feel a bit like a toy. I would actually much rather see the scale. At the bottom of the lens, there's a scale that tells you the distances where your focus is. I'd love to see that on the top, rather than these icons. Now, just because this feels like a toy, let me tell you, it is definitely not a toy. This is a fantastic, capable camera. Now, before we dive into the positives of this camera, let me just talk about a couple more of the negatives that I found while shooting this over a few weeks. The biggest problem for me wasn't how it feels, but it was the camera settings dial on the top here, being right next to the advanced film lever. I mentioned this in my video, as you've just seen, but yeah, the problem is when you take a photograph like so, and then you advance the film, well, your thumb comes into contact with the settings dial. Now, this isn't a problem every time you take an image, more so when you take multiple images in rapid succession. So you're in a rush, something's happening, snap, advance, so on and so forth. Oh, see daisy. See, I did it then and I didn't even realize. So there, you do have a tendency to knock that dial. So it's something to look out for. And as I've mentioned, I would love to see this lock. If this locked, then that would be fantastic. The final negative with this camera, which again, I'm nitpicking here because this really is a great camera, but it's a bit chunky. Now, this is designed for, as I've mentioned, going out on a night out, going away with your friends, taking snapshots that you post to Instagram and that kind of thing. Therefore, I would love to see this be a bit more pocketable. Now let's get on to the positives of this camera. It's very, very easy to use. It's kind of a hybrid between a couple of manual features, such as the focus dial and the advancing of the film, but all your shooting, it's all automated, so you don't need to worry about anything. And almost all of my pictures were absolutely spot on, and I was surprised with a half-frame camera at the quality of the images. That was my biggest concern. You see, my film setup currently is like a Hasselblad 501 CM 6x6 medium format camera. I have a Hasselblad X-Pan, and I also shoot with a Fuji GX617. So all of my film cameras, they're huge. They shoot lots of big pieces of film, very expensive, but you get immense detail and incredible quality. So I'm thinking half of a 35mm frame, that's like the size of my fingernail. Like, what are we going to achieve with that? But when I got the images back, I was super impressed and incredibly excited and couldn't actually wait to share them on Instagram, which is the intended purpose of this camera. So it works. The lens as well, I wasn't sure about the quality of the lens. It's flipping excellent. I mean, there is a lot of detail in the images. They're not huge files, you can't print them big, but again, for its intended purpose, using in social media, absolutely fine. And I know this is a bit of a cliche, but you just get a look. You get a look with this camera that is very difficult, arguably not possible with digital cameras and phones. And I think that is where the attraction lies. That is the selling point of this camera. Now, what I would like to do is encourage you to subscribe to the channel, because this video is kind of behind the scenes of this unbelievable storm chasing trip.
Got a tornado warning. Do the windows?
Oh, this is just insane. I mean, look at it. Look at what's happening over my shoulder. We have a tornado, guys. We have a tornado.
So if you subscribe, you'll be notified of those videos, which will be coming out in the next week or so. And let me tell you, man, I cannot wait to edit and release this series. Now, let me conclude with this. In my recent newsletter, I wrote a summary about this camera, and I finished with the fact that I don't think that I would buy this camera. It's not for me. It's not marketed for me. I'm a serious photographer, and a half frame doesn't quite cut the mustard. That was before I got the images back. After seeing the images from this camera and that beautiful film look, I've changed my mind. All right, this camera is for me. I wouldn't use it for serious work. I wouldn't use it for landscapes. There's not enough detail there. The frames aren't big enough. But going away with friends, going on holiday, capturing those special moments, it is 10 times better than using your phone. If you want to support the channel, I have 2 books available, Landscape Photography on Location Volume 1, Volume 2. They will surely inspire your own photography, and it helps keep the channel going, food on the table, all that kind of good stuff. So I will leave it there. Thank you so much for watching. Do tune in next time for the storm chasing. It's going to be incredible.